Hi everyone. I'm Proto. I'm CEO of Virtual Reality Marketing, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. I want to take a minute. It's a shame we can't all be here with you in the audience room, but I want to take a minute to welcome everyone who's here in Odyssey, and also those who are watching us online too. So, have you noticed this is the second time we're on this platform? We've done a major upgrade. We are now in this beautiful platform. It's called Odyssey, and it's really a step up visually from old space, and we hope also it's much easier to access to. And that said, it's only our second event with this platform, and there may be a few glitches, so please be patient with us if not everything is perfect today. And before we get started, let me share a few words about us. For the past few years, we've been on this mission to connect enterprises with leading AR, MR, and Metaverse creators. And now, virtualrealitymarketing.com is the largest showcase of immersive companies. We've got more than 3,000 creators listed on the site. We've got more than 700 AR, VR case studies across all verticals. And with Reality Innovators Network, we're the largest online community of XR professionals. We've just recently passed over 75,000 members. And finally, we are a business consultancy specialized in all things AR, VR, Metaverse. And our goal is really to be a guide to the business Metaverse. I love to say that we love to inspire, educate, and facilitate immersive business. And if you need help, by the way, if you need help finding the right Metaverse partner, or if you want to share the news with our audience of XR professionals, we can help. And you should totally get in touch using the links behind you to connect with Sophia and I on LinkedIn. And before we go further, I want to take a minute to thank our team, Michelle and Marcy, who are making sure everything is running smoothly for everyone today. I want to thank Carlos, our videographer, for making sure everyone looks great. I want to thank the teams at Ethos and Odyssey for hosting us in this beautiful space. And I want to thank our partner AWE because this event is streamed right now on AWE.Live. And moving on to today's event, the XR hardware race is heating up. So I'm sure you've noticed for quite some time, for about a year or two, the Quest 2 was the reference, some would say the only VR headset on the market. And it was, I think it's something like 90% of the sales over those last few years. However, over those last few months, all of the VR hardware players have upped their game, and Pico has released the Pico 4 at the end of last year. HTC has released the Super Svelte HTC Elite at the beginning of this year. Meta is on fire as usual, and they've launched the Quest Pro, and they just revealed the Quest 3. But there's also, new things coming out from Lenovo and X-Rail and many others. And of course, Apple. Apple. Like if you, I'm sure you've seen like all of the coverage for the Vision Pro last week, and it's a headset that's been in R&D for more than 7 years. And I think for about 2 years, it's been rumored to launch every 6 months. So, every Christmas and every summer, it's like, will they, won't they? And finally, it's been revealed, and finally, it's making all of the headlines. And what's interesting is that, it's Apple, so of course they're doing things differently. They're positioning this as a spatial computer. And to me, that's huge because it's no less than the successor to the Mac and the iPhone. And also during this launch, they carefully avoided terms like metaverse, during the reveal. Anyway, so my point is that with so much action going on the hardware front, we felt like we needed the right people to talk about it. And so please welcome Josh Bankston and Chad Modad of MaceVL. They are one of the leading distributor of XR hardware in the US. And Sophia, I'll let you take it from here as always.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry. Nice to have you here, Chad and Josh. So just a little bit background. Josh and I met actually a few years ago out in Belarus. We were learning more about Tesla Suit, one of the hardware manufacturers, the peripheral hardware manufacturers that they work with, and it's an incredible device. But and since then we've met several times, and he's a huge supporter of everything we're doing here at VRM and Reality Innovators Network, as well as the XR Women. So I appreciate that, Josh. And we actually got connected through well, the reason why VRM in particular and Mace were such a good fit together is because Mace, like as they're about to explain, provides a suite of hardware. They are the the XR hardware industry experts, and so a lot of people, a lot of clients will come to them or come to really anybody in our market looking for solutions, and they don't know where to start. So they see a company like Mace that is like servicing like all these scalable hardware, because it's hard to get a hold of some of this stuff. But they have no plan for, or they just didn't know like where to start for everything else they might need in terms of the full infrastructure to be able to make this fully deployable and scalable, and and even software that they might need, and the particular experiences that they're looking to build, and all of those things. So that's where we found an immense value in being partnered with Josh and Chad and the Mace team, because we as partners work really well together in helping to guide clients on the appropriate use cases of the on the hardware side, as well as the software side of things. And so I say this because the power of partnership, especially in our industry, does a huge service to ourselves, but also our clients as well, who are looking for kind of like a one-stop shop of knowledge and service providers and all of those things. So I'm definitely thankful in our partnership with Mace Virtual Labs. So on that note, I am going to pass it off to Josh and Chad to do a little introduction on who they are and a little bit more about their company.
Yep, Josh, go for it, man.
Thanks so much for the intro, Sophia. Yeah, it was quite a time being able to meet each other overseas first, and then come back home and continue to build a relationship together. Like she said, Mace Virtual Labs focuses on solving one part of the long equation, which is to say, how do you stand up a new technology industry? And Mace made a strategic decision early on to say, well, we're going to be the hardware experts. There's going to be a lot of people focused on software solutions and creating solutions across the different types of modalities of XR hardware. So we seek to reduce friction in onboarding new XR hardware technologies for organizations and enterprises across the North American region. And we've continuously added new, compelling, and vetted, and tried and true products out there in the wild to help be a source of information and knowledge to these enterprises on how to properly not just implement, but also find that scalability, which is where obviously services come in as well, right? So we're handling all the fun toys that are out there, but we're also producing value-added services that turn it from just a product into that solution that enterprises are looking to invest in. And so my part of the role at Mace Virtual Labs is I've been the technologist, a solutions engineer, building labs, scaling our services efforts, and really trying to meet the customer where their needs are.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Hey, everyone. My name is Chad Modad. I am one of the co-founders of Mace. We were founded in 2017, and exactly as Josh described, with a sole focus on the XR market space. We originally started with distributing the Virtuix Omni. That's the 360 treadmill that a lot of you may be familiar with. We today continue to distribute, sell, and install the Omnis. But over the last 6 years, we've expanded that hardware spectrum to include not just the peripheral like the Omni, but headset, the compute that goes with it. And obviously, as standalone headsets have become more mainstream, we also shifted into being able to do things like distribute on behalf of Pico in North America and provide our customers procurement paths to other headsets. And as Josh said, we really view ourselves as the big enabler, taking friction out of the system on behalf of end customers, whether those customers are ISVs, they're content creators looking to scale their deployments, or whether they are the end users, the enterprises, the schools, the entertainment centers, government, whether they're the end users. They all have similar problems. They need to select the right hardware. They need to figure out how to manage it. They need to select the right content, get that content loaded at scale. A lot of them also have logistics challenges. Like, I need to deploy 100 headsets to 100 locations. How do I do that? Or I need to deploy 1,000 headsets to a single location. How do I do that? And then ultimately, other elements include things like, how do we support it after it's been deployed? How do we pay for it over time? And then what about the services around support to our end users, not just the hardware itself? So all of these things have been part of the services that we've developed as the market has developed, and the scale that we're starting to see of adoption has also started to develop. So we're excited to share our experience with you. This is one lens at which we look at things through. There are certainly other lenses from other markets, but we tend to focus on our business-to-business customers. And like I said, we're happy to share our perspectives. Thanks again for the opportunity to share that.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I
guys.
mean, traditionally, kind of leading up to where we are now, so many people and companies have been creating some incredible experiences and content, but usually they were deployed in kind of one-to-one sessions, or like, small deployments and those types of things. Moving to a time where, people want to understand, companies want to understand how they can invest in this technology in a scalable way, and one that can last the test of time. So, that's where people like Josh and Chad come in, because we're just starting to wrap our heads around, what those requirements might be and what is needed. Because going into an enterprise setting is a whole different beast. That we're lucky to have people like Chad and Josh that are experts in this space help us in our industry even navigate. Because I know all of us are starting to get into conversations with clients on how to deploy these at scale and content experiences at scale. So with that being said, what are some of like the trends that you're seeing in some of the requirements and preferences among your clients and buyers when it comes to XR hardware and maybe the overall ecosystem and infrastructure? Are there any specific features or functionalities that they prioritize?
Yeah, Josh, why don't you take a crack at it, and I'll kind of fill in the blanks.
Absolutely. The different verticals definitely have their different focus and lens of needs, right? So you have health and medical is going to have typically more need of hand tracking, a one-to-one relationship between someone who's experiencing an immersive solution to be able to translate directly to what they want to happen in front of them or in the real world distributed. Or if you go into more of an enterprise setting, maybe they focus more on soft skills. And so using a controller but wanting standalone headsets as opposed to, like you said, Sophia, more of a one-to-one, like a tethered headset, because they want to be able to scale at multiple disparate locations distributed across the country or the world. It really depends on finding the best realization of the solution, understanding not just the limitations of the hardware that exists today, which we have, the XR2 Snapdragon head and most of the standalone headsets, or needing to scale up to something like a Vario with a tether to a high-end compute unit. I'm making sure that they understand what is capable today, what is coming soon, and what is the limitation in the market. Because there's limitations in compute, onboard or offboard. There's limitations in battery storage and power. There's limitations in form factor design and really in optics. When it comes to this industry writ large, we have really a bigger problem to solve. As far as the evolution of optics, it's not going to doesn't seem as it's scaling as fast as typical what we're used to in a typical like silicon evolution, right? Where we have this Moore's law that we're following. So there's a lot of things to take into account, and especially when you go to the B2B side of things, they want to know, okay, if I'm investing $250,000 in hardware today, what is that going to look like 2 years from now? What will we need to be refreshing in that fleet? How will we be if we carry these products for 4 years? What will the next evolution of products be? Even though if we don't have any tea leaves to read, what is the expectation 5 years down the road, and how do we continue this investment in a way that meets the needs of the investors, ROI of the team, and building the business?
So if you could give us a just quick rundown of some of the hardware that not only you provide, but what clients have been using particular hardware for, so we understand from from the use cases that you've been dealing with. Like if we were to advise our clients on some of these devices, what would you kind of recommend for what you're seeing with your clients?
Yep, no problem. I'll take this one. So we think about it not from the lens of hardware, and give me a minute to kind of clear that up. In the enterprise space, and really in any kind of business setting, the objective is solve a business problem, and solve a business problem in a way that impacts positively the business outcome. Most privately held businesses, or even publicly traded businesses, they care about ROI. Our government and military customers don't care so much about ROI, but they care about fit for purpose, fit for use, and does it solve the mission that they're after? So we always start with that lens. So in the kind of the B2B space, we categorize our solutions and therefore our hardware in 3 different kind of buckets. One is the digital connected worker. The digital connected worker lends itself really nicely to smart glasses and products like from Vuzix. So smart glasses and wearables. These are unobtrusive. They help the field worker do their job, maintenance, repair, operations, those types of things. And as you push into more controlled environments like a warehouse or an assembly station, solutions like Magic Leap come into play, because they don't need to be quite as rugged as the things that you're sending out to, say, an oil field or a power plant. And so the digital connected worker is one set, and that's where we talk about augmented reality devices, assisted reality devices. The second one, the second product category or solution category, is immersive learning, and we talk about it immersive learning at scale. And the reason why at scale is because that's where we are today, right? We're starting to see a whole lot less small pilots, and we're starting to see a lot larger deployments. And here we work primarily in the world of the Pico ecosystem, right? But again, some of our customers deploy Quests, and some of our customers deploy HTC, and they all have their various reasons for why they choose those options. Some don't want to be associated with any social media company. Some really care about the country of origin. Some really care about a specific feature capability, like the resolution has to be exactly a particular level or higher. And that's why they make their selection. But immersive learning at scale is the second category, and that's where we start to see a lot of the kind of the standalone headsets come into play. And the third major category that we talk about in terms of our solution space is specialty XR. And so that's where we start to talk about things like research, development, design, engineering. So you start to see things like, again, Magic Leap fits very nicely in that category, but so does Vario, right? So do some of the higher end HTC products. And this is where you start to also see things like Tesla suits and haptic gloves. And so what we start to see in terms of adoption certainly is Vario at the high end. There's lots of kind of competition around Pico and Meta and HTC for that immersive learning scale, or for the immersive learning at scale piece. And then on the smart glasses side, for us, Vuzix kind of compared to RealWear, those are kind of the two that we see there, but we see a lot more traction in the Vuzix space because of form factor, price, applicability, all of that. So those are the kind of the big areas, and those are the hardware pieces. I'm happy to kind of dig further into that if there's a follow-up.
May I'll have one comment on one of the things you said that I thought was really interesting, because I think there was this stat, was it last year or the year before? I'm not sure. But at that time, more than 50% of XR projects on Earth were pilots. And, first deployments, pilot, proof of concept, those kind of things, and not really getting it. And one of the things that you said was that from your perspective, you're seeing that now we moved on to the scale deployments. I think that's really interesting. Can you elaborate on this a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, and I want you to kind of think about our customers in there's kind of two categories, and it's kind of 2 by 2, if you will. So we have customers that are builders. They want to build their own solution. So we tend to see that with ISVs, the companies that are out there building applications that get deployed in retirement communities or in the medical space, or to enterprises that are doing soft skills training. They're the builders. Then there are the buyers, and the buyers tend to be mostly the end users, and they're looking for an end solution. That solution is a top to bottom solution. And that is hardware, device management, content, support, services, all of the things that we have built up at Mace. And so as the ecosystems for, say, digital connected worker and immersive learning at scale have continued to develop, and when I say ecosystem, I mean that suite of hardware, software, services, device management, all of those bits and pieces have started to develop, it's a lot easier to push out of pilot and go into scaled deployments. And so we have ISVs that are being really successful that are asking us to deliver and deploy thousands of headsets a year from a single ISV.
Wow.
We also have end customers that also have decided that immersive learning at scale is the way that they're going to go onboard their employees, keep them trained, keep them engaged. And so they are starting to push into the thousands of headsets per year. And so that's what it looks like to move out of pilot, where I don't really have an ecosystem that would help me deploy an entire solution at scale and deliver an ROI, to where we've evolved to over the last 6 years, which is there's plenty of content out there. There's fantastic hardware out there. How do I put it all together and start to show value to the business that's going to then pull on that solution and then increase the scale of deployment and the pace of deployment? And that's a really big change that we saw from 2022 leading into 2023, where the reorders have moved away from ordering 20 to 50, and they're now reordering at 100 to 500, and in some cases 1,000 at a clip. And so that's the lens that we're looking at the world through with the customer base that we have.
That's really interesting, and that's it's interesting how fast things are going and how non-linear this is.
Yes.
Right.
It's exciting and it's terrifying because it's also right.
My favorite way that this was put was by a colleague, Javier Fadul. He calls it the end of the beginning.
Right. Very interesting. Thank you, guys.
I love it. So you guys spoke about having the question be what's not necessarily what's the right hardware, but what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and then coming up with this holistic solution to be able to solve that problem. So you named not only some head-mounted display devices and the differences and use cases for those and applications for those, but you also named some hardware peripherals as well, which probably a lot of these end user clients haven't even thought of, that could help enhance or add to that ROI and value that they're looking to get, as well as even some of these software solutions that might help with scaled management of these devices. Can you talk a little bit more about those those solutions as well, and how they would integrate into some of your some of the advice, I guess, that and how you would guide your clients and how to think?
Yeah, sure. Josh, you want to tackle the device management one, and I'll take the specialty hardware?
Yeah, sounds great. Device management plays such a critical role in moving out of the, let's say, innovation lab, discovery lab type of modality. And like Sophia started to say, the innovation lab started to prove the point for specific hardware subsets. And now that they're moving to scale, the only way to truly achieve that in an effective manner without hiring and onboarding a whole new IT team that's solely dedicated to just running around trying to find where headsets are located or where peripherals are located, is to use some kind of a software solution like ManageXR, ArborXR, mobile device management solutions that allow you to manage the devices at a glance, to be able to deploy new updates to your software, effectively manage a fleet as it continues to grow and scale within your organization. And that's also important when you look at the idea that it's not just one tool that you're going to be investing in. If you go into a machine shop, you're not going to find just DeWalt tools. You're going to find a variety of different tools from different vendors to meet the solutions where the right tool for the right job finds itself. And so having a skilled and capable solution as a mobile device management provides, it's what truly unlocks an organization's ability to go from the innovation lab to the distributed across the enterprise.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good coverage on the device management side. And I think one of the things that we also want to be clear about is that in working with enterprises, device management is not optional, right? It is table stakes, and not only is it table stakes, it needs to integrate into the enterprise environment with things like single sign-on and follow the right security model. Mm-hmm. And these are originally were deterrents to the scale at which we're starting to see things, see deployments go to. And it really is like, they're kind of the unsung heroes of the industry, in my opinion, because without it, you couldn't manage a fleet of 10 devices, much less 10,000 devices, or like at Accenture, 65,000 devices, and growing. So that's device management. On the specialty hardware side, I think there's some really interesting points that we want to make sure that we convey here. Anything that is a peripheral device, in addition to a headset, whether it's a tethered headset or an untethered headset, needs to add value to the experience, right? And what I mean by that is if you take like a design thinking lens or a design lens to it, if you were to take the haptic glove out of the experience would be degraded, right? And if you can truly say that, then you can justify why it should remain there. And if you kind of think about it from the overall solution price perspective, a standalone headset, depending upon what model you buy, right, could range anywhere from $299 to $1,200 or $1,300. A haptic glove, entry level on the market today, is $5,000. So now think about this from a deployment perspective. If I'm deploying a single headset to every employee in my company, or some large subset, like let's say Accenture, 650,000 people, the 10% got headsets, the price of that solution just went up dramatically, like an order of magnitude. And so if the experience and the training and the learning and the outcome that you're creating with that peripheral device isn't that much better, you're not going to get the deployment that you're looking for. You're not going to get the scale that you're looking for. And so therefore, they're going to continue to be specialty products as opposed to products that are delivered at scale. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of these fancy peripherals live today. They live at that fringe of, how do I justify the cost of this compared to deploying a headset, right? Between $299 and $1,200. Now, there are places where it makes absolute sense, right? Pilot training. I'm training someone to fly millions of dollars worth of equipment in the air. Spending $10,000, $20,000, $200,000 for a flight simulator setup that's super high resolution, high fidelity with motion platform makes a lot of sense. I'm training a surgeon to do specific operations, and I need the haptics capability from Haptex, right? It makes a lot of money to spend. Makes a lot of sense to spend, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars on that solution because of the impact that it has. And that's, again, the lens at which we have learned to look at this through as we've worked with all of these peripheral vendors, from Tesla Suit to Haptex to SenseGlove to Manus, right? And to be able to guide them and say, look, if your solution isn't bringing that much value, or you're not going to get the scale that you're looking for, we're working with the customers, and this is what they tell us day in and day out. And so at some point, we'll reach scale for these particular hardware pieces. We're really excited about what's coming down the lens for haptic gloves, not necessarily from Haptex, but just across the industry, because the price points are starting to push further down. And when those price points reach the same range as what a headset costs, we anticipate that we will see a tremendous amount of scale, especially as the content creators start to support those devices that they know will create much better experiences and ultimately sell their content faster or more than maybe someone who doesn't support the hardware.
Love it.
That's the commentary.
Yeah, and I know from my experiences servicing like the DoD, that they have even specifically asked for these peripheral type of capabilities as well. Not even knowing if they exist, but they they're trying to recreate real life situations. So it's really cool to see what's being done there. And we are starting to take questions now. So if you do have a question in the audience, please type it in the chat on the bottom left, and we will read it out loud and have Chad and Josh answer it in the speaker room. After we're done with questions, they'll come and join you guys over in the audience room to just have some informal dialogue. But please do write your questions in the chat. While people are doing that, I have a question for you that I'm sure everyone is looking forward to hearing your perspective on. And you can probably guess what it is. With the recent introduction of Apple's Vision Pro headset, how do you perceive its impact on the XR hardware market as a whole? Are there any significant implications or opportunities that could arise from this development? And I guess you could also talk about the Quest 3, since that was announced around the same time as well.
Yeah, so I'll lead off, and I know Josh has got a lot of opinions here. I'll lead off and keep it short. We really are excited about the Vision Pro, not because of all the cool capabilities that they displayed and demoed, but because it's a juggernaut like Apple that is entering this particular vertical, right? This technology vertical. And therefore, we strongly believe that is going to that's the tide coming in, and the tide will raise all boats. So awareness across the board goes up. Validation that this is a kind of VR is here to stay and it's not going away, that goes up, even though Apple didn't use VR or Metaverse, they use spatial compute. And so we're really excited to see what the possibilities are going to be this year and in 2024. Josh, take it away.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely have had many long conversations about what the implications are here. I think what excites me the most is the full vertical integration of what Apple means to the market. They have everything from the manufacturing to the operating system to the ecosystem and beyond. One of the things that was really successful, in my opinion, of the original HoloLens platform was that Microsoft built in direct integration with the Windows ecosystem. And that meant quick pathways to success for folks that were adopting that technology. And I think that we're going to see the same thing happen with Apple. There's a familiarity there. There's already known values on how to develop for Apple, how to use Metal to continuously get every ounce of capability out of existing hardware stacks. Then there's also the idea of investing in a, like Chad said, a juggernaut, in a new technology that we already have seen proven in other industries. So if I could say, look, I can take you back in time, and knowing what you know now, I'm going to introduce you at the point in time when the iPhone first got released. There's all this ideas and opportunity that comes about with that. And I think there's a lot of that same sort of feeling of new magic coming around the corner and being able to access it through a new device. Yes, it is cost prohibitive to the masses, but I don't think that this hardware is typically really aimed at the masses. The first gen product, first new modality, first major product release from Apple in quite some time. They've, like Terry said earlier, 7 years in development. It's a lot of time and effort and intention put behind creating something that they could stand on that stage and say, we're shipping it without controllers, because we believe this much in the ability to interact and interface in the operating system, to work seamlessly in the ecosystem where you can point your headset at your laptop and all of a sudden it immediately comes on board and becomes this bigger screen and connects you in this way that Apple is known for when you invest in their entire platform. So what it represents today is opportunity. What it will be in actual use and the implications of what will happen day one, I hesitate to try to sit here and read the tea leaves. I am very excited and will be purchasing one as soon as they launch, of course.
Yes, we will. There was another part of the question here that I wanted to make sure that we tackled, specifically, what do you forecast for virtual production? I think, like a lot of other use cases, when the ecosystem is in place, that someone who is a buyer of tools for producing an outcome, in this case, a virtual production, when that ecosystem is there, we anticipate same thing. Like, we can provide an entire turnkey solution for a virtual production system. Virtual collaboration, on the other hand, is already here. With packages like Engage and Glue and others, you can today, out of the box, deploy a headset, an Engage package, and you can deploy it at scale to an organization, and you can turn on virtual collaboration today. And coupled with device management, you can manage the whole thing, keep it updated, and then also do things like, remote wipe a headset that has disappeared or someone has stolen or whatever it may be. So that's here and that's ready today. Hopefully I answered the full question there.
I think another thing that's important to stress about the full vertical integration with what Vision Pro represents is this idea that I was trying to explain what it means to a layman the other day. And what I used was an analogy of a garden. Imagine you had a garden in your backyard that it was completely overgrown, and it represented this monumental task of going through and attacking the entire project beginning to end. You get overwhelmed with the immensity of the entire project, but with a complete vertical integration with the backing of an ecosystem already built, already tested, and ready to go, you have a more manicured garden that you can attack the specific problems that you're trying to solve, but also realize the gaps and the opportunities that you couldn't see until you arrived at that point where everything is managed. So I think when this launches, we're going to see a whole new level of adoption. A lot of people that were sitting on the fence up until today, jumping in head first and really starting to bring about some new innovations, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I think it's a extremely thorough and thoughtful analysis. And to continue on what you were saying, Josh, what's interesting is that I think the hardware, the headset has been works for, they say 7 years. But Apple has been paving the way for something like a decade. Like, they started releasing AR components like ARKit. I would have to check the dates, but I think a decade is not too much. And you've had ARKit, and then you had the LiDAR sensors on the iPad. all of the interactive 3D and metal and everything has been there forever as well. And so it's kind of what you're saying. It's like from day one, all of the developers, they're in this really familiar environment. And what's interesting to me is that everybody was talking about the headset, like the hardware, but I would say that probably the star of the show was the OS, the operating system, and how it's a computer. So it's all about the OS and all the apps you can do on top of the OS. And I think it's the first time that you see a headset that's really positioned as a full-blown computer with this really sophisticated development environment designed to create anything and everything. And I really loved how Apple took people by the hand and like showed them during the reveal all of the things that people are familiar with from their iPhones and iPads and Macs. You've got all of your apps and your calendar and your Word and everything. But the whole point of presenting this at the developer conference is that you're going to start from where we are, which is, everything iOS, for instance, moving into much more sophisticated apps and apps that are dedicated for all of those verticals. So I think they really have the power of this ecosystem that no one has on. I mean, like no other companies, like all of the companies we've talked about, Meta, Pico, HTC is nowhere near those having an ecosystem that's comparable to this one.
Absolutely. And it also comes back to the point earlier of if what Chad was trying to say, if you don't have that ecosystem integration, does it degrade the experience? Can you make the case for needing that entire full integration, or do other devices solve that problem? You mentioned earlier the Quest 3. I think it's a very compelling new product that's coming down the road, and I'm sure it will see wide adoption across the consumer space. The Pico 4e launching into the enterprise space solves a lot of problems and has an iterative evolution of the standalone for business. And so what I'm really excited to see is this fleshing out of the entire affordability range and how much you invest in a product and what does it mean to scale with that product. So I don't see companies immediately adopting 100,000 Vision Pros, but I certainly could see them adopting many Vision Pros as well as even more Pico 4Es at a much more affordable rate, right? To solve that problem of high level of capability, but also scalability.
That's an excellent point, because up until recently, as I was saying at the beginning, there was one option. It was the Quest 2, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden now you've got this whole range of solutions which are better suited for this or that use case.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not to be the naysayer in the group here, right? But let's just be clear. What we're excited about is the potential given Apple's existing ecosystem. But I also want you to note that there's a big difference, having come from a design background and running a design firm, there's a big difference between 2D interaction design and 3D interaction design. And so that ecosystem of solution developers is going to have to learn how to use that capability versus the last at least 6 years from my purview, where we've had these established XR, VR ISVs that have figured that out. So if Apple can woo them into their ecosystem, then all of a sudden it's not just like a potential, it's actually really cool, because you've got people experienced with the spatial computing space that are developing content for the Vision Pro, as opposed to taking someone who's only done mobile device application development, and all of a sudden you're teaching them a whole new way to interact, a whole new series of tools, a way to convey information. And so I just want to be clear that the promise is really cool, but it hasn't been delivered yet. And that's what 2024 is going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, but that's why we're going to all stick around for the next season. That's the whole point.
Right. That's right. Yeah, again, not to be the naysayer in the group, but I just want to put a little reality on that lens from my perspective.
I hear you, and absolutely right. Sophia, do we have questions? Because we're getting seriously over time, but that was a really interesting conversation.
That was awesome. Those are the last of the questions that we have from the audience, but I do know the audience is looking forward to seeing you and chatting with you more in their room.
The merging of realities.
That's right.
So shall we take one question and maybe we move to the audience room afterwards?
Really, the questions were on Apple Vision Pro for virtual production and
Okay.
the verticals and collaboration. So
Okay,
those-
cool.
we had it. Mm-hmm.
All right, so you know what? Let's stop here because I'm paying attention to time and it's already 11:55. We're close to the hour, so for all of you who are watching us online, this is goodbye, and I want to thank you for making the time to join us today, and we'll be really happy to see you next time.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Sophia.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank
Sure,
you.
guys. It was a pleasure to have you.